You know that feeling when you wake up one morning and suddenly everything's different, not the world, you. Something shifted inside you. You saw something you can't unsee, felt something you can't unfeel, and now you're sitting across from someone you've loved for years, and there's this distance, this invisible wall. They're talking about dinner plans or what happened at work, and you're just somewhere else. Not physically, but you're not really there anymore. They ask, "What's wrong?" And you open your mouth to explain, but the words just die. Because how do you tell someone that you've changed in ways you don't even understand yet? How do you say, "I'm not who I was," without it sounding like you're leaving? That's the loneliest feeling in the world, isn't it? Being awake but completely alone in it. Look, if you're watching this, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and I need you to hear something. You're not crazy. You're not broken. This thing you're going through, it's so common. It's almost predictable, but nobody talks about it. All those spiritual teachers and books, they tell you about the awakening part, the transcendence, the bliss, the connection to everything. What they don't tell you is what happens after, when you come back down and realize you don't fit anywhere anymore. But here's the thing, you don't have to choose. Between your growth and your people, there's another way, and I want to talk about that. So here's what I think is actually happening. It's like, imagine you've been seeing the world in black and white your whole life, and then one day, suddenly, you see color, real color, and it's not just beautiful, it's overwhelming. It changes everything. Now you're trying to talk to people who are still seeing in black and white, and they're looking at you like you've lost your mind, because from their perspective, nothing's changed. The world looks exactly the same to them. Before this happened to you, you connected with people over normal stuff, right? Complaining about your boss, planning weekend trips, talking about who said what to who, material things, surface things, and it worked. It felt real enough. But now you sit through those conversations and it's like watching a movie you've already seen. You can't get back into it. You know how it ends. You see the patterns, the stories people tell themselves. The games we all play to avoid looking at what's actually real. And the worst part, they can feel it. Your partner, your family, your friends, they can feel that you're not really there anymore, even when you're trying, even when you're nodding and smiling and saying the right things. They know there's this gap now, and it exists on different levels. Sometimes it's just language. You don't have words for what you experience that make sense to them. You say something like, "The boundary between me and everything else dissolved," and they hear, "I'm having some kind of breakdown." Sometimes it's deeper. It's priorities. What you care about has fundamentally changed. They want to talk about career moves and house renovations, and you're sitting there thinking, does any of this actually matter? And then there's the deepest level, the one that really hurts. You've seen something, experienced something, and there's no way to share it, no way to bring them into it. They're in one reality, you're in another, and you're supposed to share a life together. So what do people do when this happens? I've seen it go three ways, and I've done all three myself, so no judgment here, just observation. The first trap is you start thinking you're better than them, more evolved, more conscious, more awake, whatever word you want to use. You look at their life and you see all the unconscious patterns, the ego games, the distractions. And you want to save them, wake them up, show them what you see. You send them videos, recommend books, try to explain. And when they don't get it, when they're not interested, you get frustrated, maybe even resentful. Here's what took me way too long to understand. The second you think you're more spiritually advanced than someone else, you've actually gone backwards. You're just feeding your ego with different food. Before it was, "I'm smarter," or "I'm more successful." Now it's, "I'm more conscious." Same mechanism, same separation, just dressed up in spiritual language. And it kills intimacy, because you can't truly love someone you're looking down on. You can't be vulnerable with someone you've decided needs fixing. The second trap is the opposite. You just disappear. You stop trying to explain. You stop sharing what's real for you. You build this whole inner world that they're not allowed into. You're there physically, going through the motions. But emotionally, you've checked out, you've left the building, and you tell yourself this is spiritual, this is detachment, this is equanimity. But really, it's just avoidance. It's using spirituality to bypass the uncomfortable work of actually connecting with another human being. I did this for a long time, told myself I was practicing non-attachment. What I was actually doing was protecting myself from the pain of being seen, from the vulnerability of admitting I don't know how to bridge this gap, and I'm scared I'm losing you. The third trap is the ultimatum. Either you come on this journey with me, or we're done. Either you wake up too, or I'm out. I get it. I really do. When you've seen something this significant, when your whole world has reorganized itself, it feels impossible to stay connected to someone who hasn't had that experience. But here's the thing. Your awakening is yours, not theirs. You don't get to demand that someone else's consciousness evolve on your timeline. You don't get to make your path a requirement for their love. Some of the most beautiful relationships I've seen are between people at completely different stages. One person meditating every day, the other couldn't care less about any of it. But they respect each other, they love each other, they find connection in their shared humanity, not their shared beliefs. So, what do you actually do? How do you stay connected without pretending you haven't changed? I think it comes down to 4 things, 4 practices, not steps, because this isn't linear, but ongoing practices. First, get clear on what's actually happening inside you. Most of the time when relationships fall apart after awakening, it's because you haven't even figured out your own experience yet. You're confused, you're processing, and you're expecting the other person to understand something you don't understand yourself. So sit down, write it out. What specifically changed for you? Not vague spiritual concepts, concrete, specific things. What do you need now that you didn't need before? What are you afraid of? What are you grieving? Because once you have clarity, you can communicate. Instead of, I've changed and I don't know how to explain it, you can say something real, like, I need more silence than I used to. More time alone. It's not about you. I'm learning to process the world differently, and I need space to do that. That's something a person can work with. That's a conversation you can have. Second, find bridges. You're in different places now. That's real, but there's still common ground. You just have to find it. Don't look for shared beliefs. Look for shared values. Maybe you don't both care about meditation or enlightenment or whatever, but do you both value honesty, growth, kindness, love? Start there and create new ways of connecting. Maybe you can't talk about non-duality over dinner. Fine. Can you take walks together in silence? Can you cook together? Can you find activities that feel good to both of you without requiring either of you to perform or explain? Also, learn to translate your experience into language they can actually relate to. You don't have to use spiritual jargon. Instead of, I experienced the dissolution of the subject-object boundary, just say, I had this moment where I felt completely connected to everything around me, like all the walls came down. And it changed how I see things. I'm still figuring out what it means. That's human. That's accessible. That invites them in instead of shutting them out. Third, practice compassion. For them and for yourself. They didn't sign up for this version of you. If you've been together for years, they fell in love with someone else. Someone who wanted different things, cared about different things, and now you're different. That's destabilizing for them. Scary even. When they say, you've changed or you're not the person I married, what they're really saying underneath is, I'm scared I'm losing you. I'm scared I won't be enough for you anymore. Nick, can you meet that fear with gentleness instead of defensiveness? Can you show them that your growth doesn't mean their diminishment? But also, and this is important, you're allowed to have changed. You're allowed to need different things now. Growth isn't betrayal. You don't owe anyone your stagnation. When conflict comes up, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what's the fear underneath this conversation? For both of you. What are they really afraid of? What am I really afraid of? That's where the real conversation is. Fourth, differentiate without disconnecting. This is the hardest one. You have to learn to be fully yourself while staying fully in relationship. You can be at different stages of consciousness and still love each other. You don't have to pretend to care about things that don't resonate anymore. But you also don't have to make them wrong for what does resonate with them. You go to your retreat. They go to their thing. You read your books. They watch their shows. Nobody's mocking anybody. Nobody's judging. You're just different people who still choose to be together. Find the 20% you genuinely still share. Make that sacred. Let the rest be okay to be different. The question is, can you be completely yourself without needing them to change? Can you accept them completely without abandoning yourself? If you can't do both, the relationship probably won't work long term. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's just honest. People always ask me, how do I know if I should stay or if I've outgrown this relationship? And honestly, I can't answer that for you, but I can tell you what to look for. Stay if there's still respect. Even if they don't understand your path, do they respect it? Do you respect theirs? Stay if you feel emotionally safe. Can you be vulnerable? Can you have hard conversations without it turning into a war? Stay if there's willingness to evolve how you relate to each other. Not change who you are, but adapt. Try new things. Meet each other somewhere new. Stay if underneath all the confusion and adjustment, there's still love, still genuine care, still wanting the best for each other. Stay if you can be authentic, maybe not perfectly understood, but real. If you can stop performing your old self just to keep the peace. If those things exist, you can make it work. It won't be easy, but it's possible. But if they're actively trying to suppress your growth, if being in the relationship is making you sick, if your core values about what matters in life have become incompatible, if there's no willingness to try and you're doing all the work alone, if you're only staying out of guilt, then maybe it's time to be honest about what this is. Some relationships are meant for a season, and spiritual awakening often marks the end of that season. That's not failure, that's completion. Here's what I've come to understand about all of this. This crisis, this painful, lonely, confusing crisis, it's actually an invitation to learn a completely different kind of love. Before awakening, love is usually conditional, even if we don't admit it. I love you because you make me happy, because you meet my needs, because we agree, because you're who I need you to be. But after, there's a possibility for something else, loving someone as they actually are. Not needing them to complete you, not needing them to validate you, just seeing them, accepting them, choosing connection from wholeness instead of need. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing the relationship to be anything other than what it is, it often becomes exactly what you both need. Look, this week, just do one thing. Have one real conversation. Write down what's actually happening inside you. Find one small way to bridge the gap. Your awakening is real. Your relationships are real, and you don't have to choose between them. You just have to learn to hold both, with honesty, with compassion, with courage. You're not alone in this, I promise. I